Clinging to a stranger at a party, she discovered an amazing secret. He was her hidden billionaire. The laughter danced in the air, bubbling like champagne, while Sarah clung to the railing of the lavish rooftop, her heart racing in this unreal world. The glittering skyline of Chicago felt like a gilded cage wrapped around her, a panorama of privilege and glamour that she had only ever glimpsed in grainy photographs. She took a deep breath, struggling to steel herself for the evening ahead. A party like this felt wrong, like a masquerade where her teacher's salary and soul-crushing responsibilities stood no chance against the polished silver and manicured laughter surrounding her. Why am I even here? She thought, a knot tightening in her stomach. She hoped to find one genuine soul amid the sea of emerald silk and tailored tuxedos, someone who didn't underestimate the power of hard work and resilience. The urge to retreat was palpable. Yet from high above the bustling streets, a longing flickered inside her, igniting memories of forgotten dreams. Art, painting, that part of herself she had pushed down so fiercely in order to survive. Suddenly, a voice pulled her from her reverie. Quite the view, I senti it. An unassuming yet charming man stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the horizon. His name was Jake, and as they spoke, the tension loosened its grip on her shoulders. He listened intently, humor gleaming in his eyes as they traded stories of family and values, disciplines of hard work, loyalty, and truth. She found comfort in this connection, a camaraderie rarely shared in the rigid confines of her own life. As she opened up about her artistic ambitions, vulnerability entwined with excitement. But then, she heard the whispers. The luxurious banter became an unwelcomed soundtrack in her mind. Mentioning a hidden billionaire, fragments of Jake's name slipping into the conversation like a stealthy thief. Her heart sank as realization washed over her like icy water. Jake was the embodiment of everything she fought against. Her stomach twisted, a storm of anger and disbelief brewing within. The admiration she had felt moments earlier turned to apprehension. Could she trust him? Was this genuine kindness, or merely a facade? What's your hesitation? Jake asked softly, his own kindness cutting through her spiraling thoughts. Your passion is inspiring. Those words felt like a punch to the gut. What did he know about real struggle? She watched him carefully, skepticism filling the foyer of her heart. Accepting help from him felt like a betrayal to her principles. But the flicker of hope he ignited threatened to unravel her resolve. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Glimpses of Jake's world loomed ever larger, threatening to drown out the courage swelling inside her. The facade of his humility was shattering her preconceptions, leaving her dizzy with possibilities. Just as doubt began to reel her back in, family secrets emerged in the drunken chatter, connecting her and Jake in a web laced with complications she had yet to grasp. As she stood on that precipice, her emotions churning like an uncertain tide, Sarah fought to gather her breath. The allure of this moment and all its hidden promises reached for her, yet fear gripped her heart, tempting her to retreat and close the door on hope. But could she truly let this slip away? She felt the heaviness of unmade choices hanging in the air, drowning out the laughter, and with each passing second, she knew the stakes were rising. Would she choose vulnerability or shield herself with pride? Choice hung in the balance. The night seemed to shimmer with her indecision, leaving her breathless and aching for resolution that refused to come. The chill of uncertainty throbbed in her chest as Sarah's thoughts spiraled fiercely. Here, in the opulence of this shimmering skyline, she stood at the crossroads of her life, faced with a pivotal choice. The echo of Jake's words lingered. Your passion is inspiring. She caught herself reflecting on what that meant. Had she become so mired in survival that she lost touch with her own desires? Her imagination twisted around the idea of pursuing art again, of chasing that long-buried dream. But could Jake's encouragement be sincere? Mistrust curled within her like a dark vine. She had spent too long in the trenches of humility, scrapping by with little more than a flickering hope to guide her. The world he belonged to appeared glossy and foreign, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he would soon reveal himself to be just another obstacle standing between her and her ambitions. As if reading her thoughts, Jake stepped closer. You have a talent. It deserves to be nurtured. Have you ever thought about showing your work? Maybe starting a gallery of your own? The way he spoke made her wonder if he truly understood the depths of her struggles, or if he merely saw her as another project in his world of abundance. Her instincts urged her to retreat into the familiar safety of her modest life and the rhythmic confines of teaching. What makes you think I could ever do something like that? She was surprised by the defensiveness in her voice, a rawness that pierced through her walls. You don't know my reality. Jake met her gaze with palpable sincerity. Exactly. I don't know. But that doesn't mean you should limit yourself based on what you think I understand. What if you allowed yourself to explore those dreams, instead of burying them under layers of doubt? His words hung in the air, oscillating between conviction and challenge. This man, who had moments ago seemed like nothing but a facade wrapped in charm and wealth, now stood before her as a catalyst for her buried ambitions. Sarah hesitated, her internal conflict boiling beneath the surface. She could either embrace this rush of possibility or dismiss it outright, relegating it to just another haunting notion in a life that had become equated with practicality. The realization that her art was more than just a hobby, a calling, a hunger rippled through her veins. Perhaps you're right, but this is a significant jump. I can't just plunge into the deep end without knowing how to swim. She fought to keep her voice steady, aware of the passion she had skirted around for so long. What if he could help her bridge that gap? But what strings would be attached? Sometimes, you've got to take that leap, Jake said, his intensity igniting a small flicker of courage within her. You never know how deep the water really is until you plunge in. She swallowed, anxious yet curious. Each second put pressure on her decision-making process. It felt as if the universe was gathering all her uncertainties into a single poignant moment. As the night deepened, vibrant laughter echoed around them. But beneath it all, a more resonant silence existed between Sarah and the looming choice ahead. The stakes felt paradoxically high and exciting. Jake's invitation to develop her art buzzed fuzzy and tangible in her mind. But entwined in her thoughts was an ever-present dread. What if this was a ruse, and his intentions weren't as pure as they seemed? She had to confront that discomfort, pushing her limits further than she ever had before. Just as she threw another glance at Jake, determined to grasp her moment of truth, the atmosphere shifted, transforming the vibrant energy into a taut string pulling back. A figure emerged from the crowd, a sharp voice cutting into their conversation, demanding attention not by way of wealth, but by authority, a shadow she hadn't anticipated. The time has come to face the past. Wouldn't you agree, Sarah? The familiarity of the voice sent a jolt through her. With a racing heart and a faltering resolve, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. She was standing at the precipice of her choices, now not just facing Jake's inspiration, but challenged by the specters of her previous life. What choices could she now make when the past had come knocking at her door? The night of revelations was only beginning as Sarah stood frozen between two forces, each promising to reshape her fate forever. The figure stepped closer, displacing the comfortable air of possibility that had momentarily enveloped Sarah. The familiar face revealed itself as Ethan, her former mentor, a man whose advice had once nourished her artistic soul, but had ultimately become another anchor weighing her down. His presence sparked a complex whirlpool of emotions within her: anticipation, resentment, a touch of excitement, but mostly fear. What do you want, Ethan? She struggled to keep her voice steady, layers of tension clawing up through her. Isn't it obvious? He replied, a thin smile curving his lips. I was hoping we could talk. His eyes swept over Jake, momentarily negating Sarah's uncertainty, as if he were gauging the threat in the room. It felt like a game of chess, and Sarah was caught between the players. Jake's body language shifted perceptibly. He recognized the weight of Ethan's authority and stepped back just enough to give them room. But Sarah stayed rooted to her spot, compelled by a cocktail of defiance and need for validation. Here was a person from her past who had the potential to either ground her or knock her off course entirely. "I don't need anything from you anymore," Sarah shot back, and the conviction in her voice surprised her. "Is that true?" Ethan's gaze bore through her defenses. "I think deep down you crave it. The guidance, the recognition." He paused, his tone shifting towards patronizing. "Especially after what happened at the last exhibition." The memories crashed over her like a tidal wave. The humiliation of being overlooked in favor of newcomers. The feeling of being inadequate. She had buried that experience, turning it into fuel for her resolve. But hearing it vocalized was scalding, and the old hurt threatened to unearth the vulnerability she had worked so hard to encapsulate. "Maybe I did need it once, but I've learned to do without you," she declared, fists clenching at her sides. Jake watched intently, sensing the duel of wills unraveling before him. His expression was a mixture of intrigue and concern, silently imploring Sarah to take control. "Run away again, Sarah? That's your pattern, isn't it? You never stick around long enough to see if you could really succeed." Ethan's words stabbed deeper than she cared to admit, a reminder of the self-sabotaging behavior that had kept her stagnant for years. "Stop," Jake interjected, not wanting Sarah to sink back into doubt. "You should give her the chance to choose her own path." "Choose?" Ethan's laugh was dismissive, almost cruel. "Choices require stability, Jake. Something Sarah has never had. She was mentored, yes, but she was never ready to be more than the teacher's pet. She doesn't realize that the art world isn't just about talent, it's about connections. And she lacks those." A sudden rage brewed within Sarah, and she realized how much she had grown since those days of reliance on Ethan. "You're right about one thing. I struggled back then, but I'm not that person anymore." Her voice steadied, each word punctuated with renewed conviction. "I am capable of much more, and I won't let you or anyone define my worth again." With a deep breath, she turned back to Jake, grounding herself in his presence. Here was a man who saw her potential without the taint of her past, whose belief triggered a brave flicker inside. Ethan's smirk faltered, the initial confidence cracking. He had underestimated her, believing her to be bound by the chains of her history, but she could feel the rift between them growing. This was her moment, a potential turning point. "It's too late for lectures, Ethan. I'm going to do what I love, and you can't stop me," she declared, each word reinforcing her newfound resolve as she pivoted again toward the glimmer of Jake's support. A palpable shift emerged in the atmosphere. Her internal landscape roared with defiance. In that moment, she felt unshackled, as if she were shedding the last vestiges of self-doubt. But before she could linger further in her triumph, Ethan's voice sliced through the air, now menacing. "Just remember this moment, Sarah. You might not. Like where your dreams take you." With those words hanging heavy, the familiar doubt crept back, combining with the thrill of her rebellion. She stood poised at a creative crossroads, her heart racing with newfound determination and uncertainties intertwining seamlessly. As she steadied herself against the weight of possibility, an idea crystallized. Was it finally time to make the commitment she had shied away from? The night buzzed around her, and she roamed mentally through uncharted territory, her art. Suddenly, it felt both terrifying and exhilarating to embrace that prospect, misgiving mingling with ambition. And as she turned from Ethan, she caught Jake's eyes again, seeing his unmasked belief in her reflect back. Was this link with him merely a bridge or something more significant? Feeling electrified, she didn't pay attention to Ethan's retreating figure. She knew now the challenge ahead was not merely external but internal, confronting the ghosts of a past threatening her future. Just as she began to envision her first steps toward that gallery, another figure stepped forward, this time bearing news that could either solidify her dreams or crush them entirely. "Sarah, you have a phone call. It's about a chance you can't ignore." The weight of potential outcomes pressed down on her, and as she followed the voice into the enclosing crowd, Sarah braced herself for the convergence of choices and revelations that lay ahead. Sarah navigated through the crowd, her heart still pulsating with the remnants of her fierce confrontation with Ethan. Each step felt like a declaration, signaling her intent to lean into the unknown despite her lingering fears. The ambient music drowned out the clamor of self-doubt that echoed in her mind. What opportunity awaited her on the other end of that call? As she reached the dimly lit corner where voice and conversation coalesced like an insistent whisper, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Jake had offered her hope with his acceptance, and with that came the possibility of breaking free from the chains of her past. Yet, as she approached the ringing phone, apprehension gripped her throat. What if this call could unearth instability just like Ethan had suggested? When she picked up the receiver, the voice on the other end was authoritative but excited. "Sarah, it's Alex from the gallery. I've been following your work, and I think we have an incredible opportunity to showcase your pieces in our upcoming event. Are you interested?" The words crashed over her, a tsunami of possibilities crashing into the fortified walls she had built. She paused for a moment, the reality of the invitation settling like a dense fog around her mind. This could shift everything: her perception of herself, her trajectory, her story. But the stakes were steep. What if she failed again? "Absolutely," she responded, her voice surprisingly steady despite the turmoil within. "Tell me more." As Alex outlined the particulars: critical deadlines, themes, and the pressing need to submit her pieces for consideration, Sarah scribbled notes on her hand, her fingers trembling with both fear and exhilaration. This wasn't a casual opportunity. This was her chance at redemption, a moment that could define the trajectory of her professional journey. But even amid that excitement, Ethan's words contaminated her thoughts like a drip of ink in clear water. Was this just another fleeting chance that would vanish if she didn't seize it with both hands? Could she withstand the pressures that came with showcasing her work at a well-respected gallery? Her self-doubt whispered menacingly, echoing Ethan's claims about her lack of connections, her inability to be more than a footnote in someone else's narrative. "Will you be submitting newer pieces?" Alex asked, bringing her back to the moment. "Your past work is strong, but I sense you might have more to say." His question hovered in the air, and she hesitated. What did she truly want to say? What lay dormant within her that needed to emerge? The vibrant chaos of ideas swirled, pushed forward by the adrenaline coursing through her veins. It was a crucial turning point, igniting sparks of creativity she had not allowed herself to explore after Ethan's discouragement. "I have some ideas," she finally replied, noticing how her voice grew more sure with each word. "I want to create pieces that reflect where I'm at now, and not just echo past experiences." Alex seemed pleased, and she could sense a shift in his enthusiasm. "Perfect. But we're on a tight timeline, so I need you to commit fully. Are you ready for that?" The question jolted her as if it were a soothing balm applied to the wound of her insecurities. "Ready." She felt hollowed out and filled back up all at once by that single demand. It wasn't just about readiness. It was a commitment to herself, a choice to defy the narrative written by others. "Absolutely," she affirmed, the word resonating in her core like a battle cry against her internal doubts. As she ended the call, the weight of expectation hovered around her, tangling her mind with a pulsing mix of excitement and anxiety. Sarah stood there, a battleground of emotions swirling inside elation at the prospect of showcasing her art, mixed with the stark realization of what it would require. She was stepping away from the safety of complacency into the risky landscape of her ambitions. Turning back, she scanned the crowd for Jake, needing his grounding presence to anchor her resolve. He stood nearby, cradling a drink, his eyes searching the room until they firmly met hers. In that instant, a wave of warmth surged through her as she relayed the news. "Jake, I just got an opportunity to showcase my work," she announced, almost breathless from the gravity of her declaration. "See? You're already making moves," he replied, pride glinting in his gaze. A surge of gratitude coursed through her for his unwavering belief. But as their moment entwined, a shadow flickered behind Jake's expression, a flash of concern maybe, or something deeper. "Just remember, not everyone will support you." His words hung uncomfortably in the air, recalling Ethan's cruel laughter. Would this opportunity come with more than she had bargained for? Her resolve solidified. This wasn't about the gallery or the validation from others. It was a complex inner battle to redefine herself and her place within this vibrant art world. As Sarah took a deep breath, she resolved to protect her newfound determination from the critics lurking in the shadows. If they don't support me, then I'll find the strength to rise above, she replied fiercely, allowing no room for retreat in that moment of clarity. A commitment formed in her mind not just to the gallery or to Jake, but to herself and her art. There was one more step to take before she could fully embrace this path. She needed allies, a community that understood her vision and shared her dreams. As these thoughts coalesced into a plan, something tickled her intuition. Creativity needed collaboration. She needed to reach out to other artists, confront even more fears, and build a network that could empower her vision. Just then, another familiar face broke through the crowd, someone who could shift the dynamic further, a former classmate who had now become a significant player in the art community. With her breath held, Sarah saw the flicker of possibility glimmering ahead. Would this connection offer her the support she craved, or would it lead her down another winding path that challenged her further? As she prepared to greet the approaching figure, she understood this was merely the beginning of an unforeseen adventure, one that held the promise of her dreams, or the threat of more shadows to face. Sarah inhaled sharply, feeling tension ripple through her as the familiar face approached. Claire, an ambitious artist who had once inspired Sarah back in art school. Now more prominent in the industry, Claire radiated an aura of confidence that both intimidated and fascinated Sarah. Sarah, it's so good to see you. Clara's smile seemed genuine, but Sarah felt the weight of competition lurking beneath the surface. Was this an encounter of potential collaboration or an unspoken rivalry? Hi, Claire, Sarah responded, striving to match her enthusiasm. I heard you've been making waves in the art scene. It's impressive. Thanks. I'm juggling a few projects, but I'd love to hear what you've been working on, Claire said, her tone friendly yet probing. Sarah's heart raced. This was a chance to put her ideas on the table, to share her vision. But what if Claire dismissed her? I just landed a chance to showcase my work at the gallery, Sarah revealed, her pride tempered by the fear that came with vulnerability. I'm looking for new inspiration, so I'm considering shifting my focus a bit. Interesting choice, Claire replied, arching an eyebrow. What direction are you thinking? Sarah took a breath, the moment feeling charged. I want to dive deeper into themes that reflect my personal journey, something more authentic than what I've done before. The past has shaped me, but I want to express where I am now. Claire's response drew a slow nod, but there was an element of skepticism in her gaze. Authenticity is great, but remember, the art world has its trends. Just don't get too personal, you want to stay marketable too. The phrase stay marketable hit Sarah with a jolt. Was it possible to balance self-expression with the harsh realities of commercial art? Instinctively, she felt herself retreating behind her insecurities. What if her authenticity was deemed unworthy? I'll keep that in mind, Sarah replied, though the doubt settled uncomfortably in her mind like an unwanted guest. Let us grab a drink and catch up properly, Claire suggested, guiding Sarah back into the thrumming energy of the crowd. As they walked, Sarah scanned the sea of faces, searching for Jake's supportive gaze. She needed to anchor herself amidst these swirling thoughts, validation and fears battling for dominance. Settling at the bar, Claire updated Sarah about her recent projects, a mix of high-profile commissions and a promising collaboration with a renowned designer. Each success she shared only intensified Sarah's insecurities, but Claire had an undeniable charm that exerted a magnetic pull. Maybe we could collaborate on something? Claire proposed, her eyes glinting with ambition. Your style has an edginess I think could work well with my vision. The idea struck Sarah with both excitement and hesitation. Collaboration could enhance her creativity, but was she good enough to contribute meaningfully to Claire's established brand? I'd love to discuss ideas, but I want to stay true to my voice too, she replied cautiously, gauging Claire's reaction. Of course. Let us challenge each other, Claire enthused, though a flicker of calculation crossed her expression. In that moment, Sarah recognized that Claire's enthusiasm might be as much about personal gain as mutual growth. As their conversation flowed, so did Sarah's apprehension. Every shared idea felt like stepping along a tightrope, balancing her aspirations against the fear of being overshadowed. The crowd around her faded, the ambient noise muted compared to the ever-growing internal dialogue. Suddenly, Claire leaned closer, her voice low and conspiratorial. "You know, Sarah, I've always thought you had more depth than you let on. If you fully commit to your art, no half measures, you could really make an impact." Her words felt like a dare, piercing through the fog of doubt. This was a pivotal moment, either to embrace this challenge and elevate her art or retreat into safety once again. Sarah locked eyes with Claire, reading the ambition behind them. The stakes had never felt higher. "Let us do this," she said, determination flashing across her face. "Let us create something that speaks our truths." They clinked their glasses, sealing a pact, but Sarah's heart raced with the unease that often followed taking risks. As they discussed initial concepts, visions began to collide, creating a vibrant picture of possibilities. But deep down, another thought gnawed at her. Would choosing to engage with Claire pull her away from her authentic self? And as they exited the bar, laughter echoing between them, a nagging query lingered. Could they genuinely collaborate without one drowning out the other's voice? The evening continued, vibrant yet overwhelming. Sarah yearned to set boundaries. Her voice was just as valid and significant as Claire's. In the throes of potential collaboration, she couldn't ignore Ethan's voice echoing warnings of inadequacy. As they moved through the festivity, that familiar face from the gallery reappeared at the corner of her vision. Alex, approaching with a sense of alarm. He looked not only concerned but as though he were carrying news that could tilt the balance dramatically. What could he possibly want at this decisive moment? Would it challenge her budding partnership with Claire or illuminate a further opportunity that demanded her complete focus? The air thickened with anticipation, leaving her yearning for clarity amidst all the uncertainty. As Alex drew closer, Sarah's heartbeat quickened, mixing excitement with anxiety. His expression was serious, marred by an urgency that heightened her apprehension. The jovial laughter around them faded into a dull murmur, as if the world had receded to a backdrop for this pivotal moment. "Sarah, I'm glad I found you," he said, breathless. "I need to talk to you. It's important." His tone sent a ripple of alarm through Sarah's chest. Whatever news he carried had the potential to disrupt the fragile ground she had just begun to navigate with Claire. The exhilaration from their pact seemed to fade. "What is going on, Alex?" she asked, forcing a calmness she didn't feel. "It's about your exhibition," he replied, glancing around as if wary of eavesdroppers. "We have a situation. I didn't want to worry you," but his voice trailed off, leaving an unsettling silence. The air was thick with unspoken truths, and the chaotic energy of the crowd felt distant and surreal. Quickly, Sarah scanned the room, searching not only for Claire's presence, but also for Jake's reassuring smile. "Just tell me," she urged, coaxing out the words before the moment slipped away. "There's a new investor. Someone who's shown interest in funding promising artists for their first major collections. I thought you should know he's specifically looking for someone whose vision aligns with innovation and authenticity." His eyes flickered with intensity. "He's intrigued by your work." Excitement flashed through her, battling alongside doubt. "That's incredible," she began, feeling the gravity of the opportunity. "But why is this a problem?" "He wants a private meeting. Soon. And I've heard things about him." Alex's sentence hung, weighted with implications. "He may have a reputation for shifting the narrative in unexpected ways. People have been known to lose their artistic identity in the rush to please him." Fear clenched at Sarah's gut. The prospect of validation was intoxicating. Yet she just vowed to remain authentic. Was she willing to gamble her voice, her truth, on someone else's terms? "I don't want to compromise what I stand for," she whispered, grappling with the unsettling duality of ambition and integrity. "Then don't," Alex replied, his brow furrowing. "You don't have to decide right now, but don't dismiss this opportunity either. Could be what you've been waiting for, something that redefines your path." His encouragement ignited a flicker of determination within her. She craved recognition, but not at the expense of her essence. "What do I do if this investor wants control?" If he steers my vision? A wave of uncertainty washed over her, tightening her shoulders. Then you negotiate your terms. You're talented, Sarah, and you've already built a foundation that reflects your true self. Don't forget that, he replied, a mantle of conviction wrapping around his voice. With every word, a case for self-advocacy formed in her mind, a new resolve pushing against the tide of hesitation. Sarah felt the weight of the decision pressing against her chest, swaying her thoughts like leaves in a storm. Okay, she said slowly, digesting his words. I'll meet with him, but I'll go in with my boundaries set. Good? Alex smiled, a hint of pride in his voice. And remember, it's your voice that draws people in. Keep it at the forefront. As they stood there, a hesitant but resolute professionalism enveloped her. This was a defining moment not just for her career, but for her sense of self. She'd step into that uncertain future, wild and hopeful rather than cautious and conforming. I should talk to Claire first, Sarah said abruptly, her mind swirling with potential strategies. She might have insights, or at least her perspective. Alex nodded, but Sarah could see in his eyes that he was holding back more. What else is there? She pressed, sensing the weight of his next words. Just I want you to be careful with Claire, he finally whispered. There's ambition in that one, and not everyone is as genuine as they appear. You need to protect yourself. As he left, Sarah mulled over his warning, already calculating her next steps, the excitement of her gallery showcase mingling with the anxiety of Claire's influence. Claire, an exhilarating possibility or a potential pitfall? As Sarah turned to rejoin the festivities, the floor beneath her feet felt unsteady. It was time to assert her identity firmly, a journey that would challenge her at every turn. Outside, the night air was cool, grounding her in the present as the duality of fear and anticipation pulsed like a heartbeat within her. Would she be able to maintain her authenticity while pursuing relentless ambition? The challenge crystallized in her mind, compressing into a singular question. Who was she willing to become in the pursuit of her dreams? And just as she gathered her thoughts, Claire's laughter rang out nearby, drawing Sarah's gaze. The night stretched on, and the choices loomed, sharper than ever in the neon glow. The evening held promises, but also the shadows of doubt. Would she risk it all to forge her own path? This journey was only just beginning, and the most significant challenges lay ahead. The laughter echoed through the crowded room, jarring in its juxtaposition to Sarah's spiraling thoughts. As she moved through the throng, Claire's voice rose above the din, coaxing people into her orbit. But it was not just Claire's charisma that attracted attention. It was the power dynamic looming at the edge of Sarah's consciousness. She approached Claire, who was engrossed in conversation, the glow of confidence radiating from her. Even now, Sarah couldn't help but admire her friend. Claire presented an image of assuredness, of unyielding ambition astutely navigating the waters of the art world. Was that the kind of confidence she needed? The kind that flourished in opportunism? Sarah, Claire exclaimed, breaking away from her latest admirer. You're just in time. You won't believe who I've been talking to. The excitement swirling around Claire could easily sweep Sarah under if she wasn't careful. I need to talk to you about something important, she managed, attempting to ground herself amid the rising tide of apprehension. All in good time, Claire dismissed, waving a hand, the glint in her eyes overshadowing the shadow of Sarah's doubt. First, let me introduce you to Mr. Hargrove. He has connections, darling. As they walked over, Sarah suppressed a wave of anxiety. The prospect of meeting someone with such influence could spell opportunity, but it also meant vulnerability. What might be expected of her if she engaged with a newcomer so tantalizingly connected? She would be stepping onto a fragile stage. Mr. Hargrove, meet my talented friend Sarah. Claire beamed, her sweetness palpable. She's about to make waves in the art scene. The man, imposing yet remarkably composed, extended a hand that felt heavy with expectation. I've heard quite a bit about you, Sarah. Your work is stirring an interest. I look forward to seeing it. Flattery washed over her, but a flicker of insecurity ignited just beneath the surface. Thank you, she replied, attempting to project confidence while wrestling with the surge of self-doubt. Navigating this meeting felt akin to walking a tightrope. Every word, every courtesy could swing her toward an opportunity or topple her into a realm of compromise. What if Mr. Hargrove was the type of investor Alex had warned could hijack her vision? As she engaged in light conversation, laughter punctuated the air with every nod that Claire gave to the inquiries he made. But with each passing moment, and each compliment exchanged, a nugget of resolve solidified within her. She reminded herself to remain anchored in her authenticity. I appreciate the interest, Mr. Hargrove, but I believe art should stand free of corporate influences. It must resonate truthfully. Claire's lips pressed together momentarily in surprise, but the sharpness of her gaze was approving. Hargrove studied her, an unreadable expression flickering across his face, features hardened by experience in the industry she had yet to comprehend fully. An admirable stance, he finally replied, his voice imbued with a subtle challenge. Do you truly believe one can navigate artistry without compromise? His words sent shivers of unfamiliar conviction spiraling through Sarah's mind. Here it was her moment of engagement, of deciding who she intended to be in this complex ecosystem of ambition. Any misstep could lead to losing herself, but could she profit the possibilities and retain her essence? Before she could answer, Claire interjected with an audacious remark about the merits of adaptability, threading a message of survival into the conversation. In that moment, an internal war ignited within Sarah. Could she remain true to herself while navigating someone else's aspirations? As she pondered, adrenaline pulsed in her veins. Dread and excitement entwined, sending her heart racing. In this environment, charm and compromise mingled, and as conversation flowed, Sarah felt her control slipping. And with it came the question that clamped her throat tight. If she capitulated to others' expectations to gain favor, would she ever reclaim her own narrative, or would it erode into someone else's design? In that instant, she resolved to cultivate a strategy not just for this encounter but for every moment moving forward. One that would safeguard her authenticity while engaging with the architecture of the art world's prominent figures. But just as she gathered her thoughts, she overheard Hargrove speaking to Claire about another emerging artist, an echo of her own fears surrounding her identity in this whirlwind of ambition. The night promised too many twists and turns already. But as uncertainty loomed, the depths of opportunities beckoned. Could she wield the power of negotiation instead of hiding behind uncertainty? Claire, Sarah said, drawing closer as the essence of determination sparked a fire within her. I need your opinion on something pivotal. Claire turned, her brows furrowing with effortless curiosity. What's on your mind, Sarah? Before she could share the weight of her next challenge, a loud commotion erupted from the far corner of the space, commands and shouts tumbling into the air. The energy in the room shifted dramatically. What would that chaos unveil, and how would it ultimately redefine Sarah's choices? With every beat, the night only grew more unpredictable, and in that spirited moment, Sarah realized she had to decide what truly mattered to her, and fast. As the commotion escalated, the once vibrant atmosphere tensed, the laughter fading into a curious silence punctuated by shouts. Sarah felt her heart race. She focused on Claire's expression, which danced between concern and excitement. It was a hard reflection of her own turbulent emotions. This was not the stage Sarah anticipated that evening. Stay close, Claire whispered, her voice a blend of urgency and confidence. Sarah instinctively followed, keeping pace as they moved toward the source of the chaos. The crowd parted, revealing a small group at the center, comprising a mix of guests and security personnel. The whispers and gasps of onlookers painted a picture of something significant, perhaps troubling, unfolding. What's happening? Sarah asked, though part of her was more interested in the shifting dynamics around her than the incident itself. This was no longer just about Claire or Mr. Hargrove. It was about her place amidst such unexpected turbulence. Rumor has it an artist got into a heated dispute with a critic, Claire answered, her eyes narrowing on the scene. You never know what will pop up in this world. A hint of excitement pulsed through her words, reflecting a sentiment Sarah could not help but question. The situation intensified. Sarah's thoughts wandered. Was this the type of conflict she'd have to navigate? Clashing egos? Or was it something deeper? An unsettling reality of an industry she so desperately wanted to break into? Gratifying yet treacherous. The scenario only emphasized her dilemma. Tread carefully or risk losing herself. Desire stirred inside her. The chance to learn from this moment, to pull back the facade of glamour and ambition that often shrouded the art world. Just then, someone stepped out from the throng, an imposing figure with an undeniable presence. He moved with purpose, his every action rippling with command. The moment he came into view, Sarah felt an inexplicable pull. Closer to her than the chaos, he carried an aura that radiated both authority and vulnerability. "Excuse me," he said, raising a hand toward the security team, who had formed a perimeter. His voice, calm yet assertive, cut through the disarray. There was something mesmerizing about him. The intensity of his gaze sent a jolt of electricity through her, igniting a flicker of curiosity. "Let him through," came a voice from the back, and the group reluctantly parted to make way. As he neared, Sarah felt her breath hitch. He seemed so different from the others, untouched by the clamor. She could see the glassy depths of experience tucked into the corners of his eyes. Lost in his magnetic presence, her earlier resolve flickered. "Everything all right here?" he asked, the question resonating with deeper significance than the surface context suggested. There was an unusual familiarity in the way he spoke, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of their worlds colliding, though she didn't quite understand how. The artist's inner turmoil was suddenly hers, layered beneath the vibrant intrigue of the night. Vulnerability nestled alongside potential, an unexpected blend that echoed her own journey. "Just a small dispute," Claire replied, her tone laced with the bravado of someone who moved easily through such situations. At that moment, Sarah realized she wasn't merely a bystander. She had to step into this scene, this narrative that pulsated with tension and opportunity. A thought struck her. What if the artist in distress epitomized the risks she was unwilling to take? What if every person in this room, including the enigmatic figure before her, was wrestling with their battle for authenticity? "Are you an artist?" she asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. His expression flickered with recognition, almost delight. "I dabble in various mediums, but I'm more of an observer lately." "Observer?" she echoed incredulously. This revelation brought forth a rush of intrigue. Perhaps he, too, grasped the chaos that often underlined creativity. Before he could respond, the atmosphere shifted again, a palpable change, igniting her instincts. She sensed vulnerability in the air, almost like the lingering scent of paint on a canvas, raw and transformative. It echoed her own quest for expression. With that, the chaos remerged momentarily as the other artist began to regain composure, calling for attention amidst the muffled audience. Sarah took a deep breath, grappling with the weight of her ambition and the fear of compromise. This was not just about how others perceived her, but about claiming her narrative unapologetically. "Every artist is sculpted by their struggles," she thought aloud, surprising herself with the depth of her reflection. "True, every stroke of success comes glimmering with stories of our failures." He smiled, genuine warmth radiating from him. A brief glimpse into the essence of shared experience. In that instant, Sarah felt a spark of clarity. Their conversation had altered the landscape of her own mind. The stakes she had been worried about evolved into opportunities for exploration. But just as she felt herself reaching toward connection, Claire interjected, her voice bubbling with excitement. "We have to meet up later. I think he could be a crucial ally for your work." Sarah felt herself grappling with the gravitational pull of potential collaboration versus the weight of self-preservation. Where would this exchange lead? Would she risk seeing where this connection might take her, or would the comforting familiarity of her hesitance ensnare her? As if to answer, a sharp crescendo of noise echoed through the room. Uncertainty morphed into anticipation. She knew she was on the edge of a decision, the kind that could spiral beyond this night's chaos, unfolding new dimensions of her journey. What was it she truly desired? To hide behind the guise of safety, or to explore the depths of her artistic soul? The night, once again, loomed with unpredictable complexities, urging her to confront her fears head-on. And in that moment of clarity laced with tension, Sarah leaned closer, ready to embrace what lay beyond, ready to define her art, her journey, and ultimately, herself. As the air thickened with possibility, one thought echoed in her mind. Was she brave enough to uncover the truth within the storm? The noise around Sarah faded as her mind narrowed in on the man before her. She felt an inexplicable urgency to connect with him, to understand the stillness he exuded in the midst of discord. This was not just a chance encounter. It was an opportunity for revelation, and she was resolute about seizing it. "Can I ask you something?" she blurted out, surprising even herself with the straightforwardness, her pulse quickening at the prospect of vulnerability. It was a risk she had long avoided. Directness often felt like an exposure of weakness, yet tonight, it seemed an invitation to strength. "Of course," he replied, his demeanor inviting rather than dismissive. All at once, Sarah's thoughts spun around ambition and authenticity, the profound collision of dreams and realities she had faced for so long. "Why do you call yourself an observer? It sounds like you've distanced yourself from the art you create." He paused, the light shifting in his eyes. "Sometimes distance makes the art clearer. Yet, I've lost something of perspective perhaps." The sincereness in his voice stirred something raw inside her. His admission mirrored her own fears. She realized she had been skirting around her own artistic truths, seeking validation from others rather than forging her own identity. "Maybe," she ventured, "we all need a little chaos to find our clarity." It was a daring statement, yet she felt it resonate. The crowd around them started to shift again, the artist and critic's exchange escalating into an outcry that breathed life into the scene. Clashes of opinion floated in the air, and Sarah could sense the energy feeding the very core of creativity, the tension, the desire, the urgency to express without restraint. "Do you ever regret stepping back?" Sarah pressed further, her curiosity and concern blazing. "Regret? Perhaps, but it also granted me a clearer picture of what the art world can become. It can be manipulative and suffocating," he said, his tone now tinged with bitterness. "But again, it can also uplift and inspire. The duality exists for us all." A twinge of recognition coursed through her. She faced a similar fork in her own path, navigate the treacheries of a demanding industry or fortify her expression and her voice while risking isolation. "That's the moment I senti it," she mused. "When you decide if you're going to let the external chaos dictate your path or if you're going to create with intention." He regarded her thoughtfully, perhaps pondering the weight of her question or the shift it catalyzed within him. Sarah felt them both hovering at the edge of discovery, a potential understanding of their respective journeys glowing faintly in the distance. Before he could reply, Claire's voice broke in again, this time filled with excitement. "Sarah, you've got to meet Mary. She's been looking for someone innovative to feature in her gallery." As Claire's enthusiasm spilled forth, Sarah felt a flicker of apprehension. Mary was a well-known curator, her reputation daunting. Would this encounter funnel her into the dark alley of industry politics? Would the pressure stifle her voice? But like the crescendo of noise that defined the night, her thoughts battled for supremacy. The tall figure remained steady beside her, an anchor amongst swirling distractions. "Don't lose your voice," he said softly. "You deserve to share your narrative." Jeremy's words hung in the air, igniting a cautious spark in her mind. He was a mirror reflecting what she'd been too afraid to embrace. The notion of self-preservation felt less daunting as she sat before a crossroads. As she took in her surroundings, the art surrounding her suddenly felt alive with stories begging to be told. The moment she held on to felt weighted with potential. It could shape her future in ways she had never considered before. "Can you introduce me to this Mary?" she asked, resolve sharpening her voice. The decision was made. Sarah understood it was time to embrace messy unpredictability, to throw herself into this artistic vortex, and to carve her own place within it. "Yes, let us go. But remember," he said, leaning slightly closer, "you are the artist of your own journey, not merely a pawn on someone else's board." The impact of his words struck her. They resonated like a vibrant chord within her chest, guiding her onward. There was no going back now. Just as they began to weave through the throngs of people, a sudden commotion erupted behind them. Sarah turned, startled as she spied a figure rushing through the crowd, eyes locked onto hers. A shiver ran down her spine as she recognized the urgency etched into their features. "Sarah, wait!" The voice called out, sharp, insistent, disruptive. She froze as the face came closer, uncertainty wrapping around her heart. A decision loomed, poised to shatter the momentum she had just gained. Who was this intruder in her moment of potential? Would the disruption draw her back into her doubts, or propel her further into her burgeoning identity? The room seemed to hold its breath, a cascade of possibilities crashing as she faced this new player in her evolving narrative. Would she cling to the tension or leap into uncharted territory? The tension in the air was palpable as Sarah turned to face the figure approaching her through the crowd. It was Ethan, her former mentor, the embodiment of her past, and the very anchor that had once tethered her to self-doubt. His presence felt heavy, charged with expectation and a haunting familiarity. "Sarah, wait," he called again, urgency lacing his voice. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" She replied, her heart pounding as the noise of the party faded into a background hum. She felt a tightness creeping up her throat, mixed with both apprehension and defiance. Here, she stood on the cusp of opportunity, and yet, his looming shadow threatened to extinguish the flame of her courage. "I need to talk to you. I know there's more you want from your art than you're letting on," he said, stepping closer, the weight of his words making her spine stiffen. "You can't let ambition blind you to the reality of this industry. Remember the last exhibition? The criticism? You need stability." He looked sincere, the tension in his voice a dissonant note against the vibrant backdrop of the party. "That's not how I see it anymore, Ethan," Sarah replied tightly, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. "I'm done letting others dictate my place in this world. I'm going to embrace my truth, and I'm ready to showcase it." Ethan's expression shifted, a mixture of disbelief and concern crossing his face. "You're not ready for the scrutiny, the expectations. You'll get lost in it," he argued, seeking to ground her with familiar fears. Lost? She felt her confidence swell, fortifying her resolve against his well-worn warnings. "No, Ethan, that's not me anymore. I'm embracing the chaos, and I'm ready to dive into the unknown, not hide behind it." She stole a glance at Jake, who watched intently from the sidelines, mirroring her newfound bravery. Ethan's eyes narrowed, gauging her sentiment. "But the art world is unforgiving." "Maybe so," Sarah countered, her heart racing with determination. "But it's also a place of growth. I've spent too long stifling my voice, and I won't let that happen again." As the words flowed from her, clarity sliced through her prior uncertainties like a beam of sunlight through storm clouds. She realized she no longer feared the chaos. She had the power to shape it, to negotiate her place fiercely. Ethan took a step back, clearly unsettled by the strength radiating from Sarah. "I didn't come here to fight," he relented, almost gently. "But please don't disregard the risks. Make sure this path is genuinely yours." For the first time, she saw him not as a mentor, but as someone who struggled with his own unresolved fears. "This is my moment, and I need to own it. I appreciate your concern, but this is more than just taking risks. It's about defining who I am and what I stand for." With those words echoing in the air, Sarah turned her attention back to Jake, a collaborator in her newfound journey. In his eyes, she saw unreserved support, a refuge against the uncertainties that life had hurled at her all along. Meanwhile, Claire emerged from the crowd, interruption in tow, her eagerness palpable. "Hat on, superstar. Mary's waiting for you. You need to make this happen now." With a deep breath, Sarah felt renewed energy surge through her. She embraced the tumult of the night, recognizing that every interaction and every revelation positioned her closer to personal fulfillment. Ethan's presence, once menacing, had transitioned into yet another catalyst for her growth. As she stepped forward, determination ignited within her. She would meet Mary, showcasing her talent and authenticity, no longer flinching at potential scrutiny. This was her moment to conquer. "I'll meet you at the gallery," Sarah said to Jake, their eyes connecting in mutual understanding. "Let us create something incredible," Jake replied, sparkling encouragement resonating in his words. With that, Sarah strode confidently toward Mary, her heart clamoring with excitement. The intoxicating fusion of ambition and authenticity danced at the edge of her consciousness, propelling her forward with conviction and clarity. She was ready to carve her identity and unveil her dreams to the world. No fear, no reservations, just the artistry that surged through her veins. Turning back momentarily, she caught Ethan's gaze and offered a small nod of acknowledgement, a silent farewell to the hesitation of her past. This was about transformation, and she stood firmly in the light of her own potential. As she approached Mary, resolve solidified within her. She was no longer a spectator. She had proven herself in the ever-evolving narrative of her life. She had embraced her story, shaking off the remnants of doubt. The night lay stretched before her like a blank canvas, awaiting the strokes of her passion. With the chaos swirling around the lively gathering, Sarah finally understood the beauty of her own story, one that she was now brave enough to tell. This was the beginning, not just of an exhibition, but of everything she aimed to achieve, crafted with each powerful step she took toward her destiny. And as the final threads of doubt unraveled, invigorated by the possibility of what lay ahead, she felt a rush of joy surge through her. Each heartbeat echoed the resolve that she had transformed. She was ready to claim her place as an artist, exposed yet unwavering in her commitment to authenticity. The future awaited, vibrant and alive, brimming with promise. Now is the moment to become part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because your support truly matters. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Your voice is crucial. And don't wait even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformational ending.